Hello, folks. Welcome to Between Awesome and Disaster. This is your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you tuning in and thank you for your continued listening. Apologize for my absence the past couple of weeks. It's been a oddly difficult time nailing down guests on the schedule that I have been trying to maintain since the beginning of the pandemic. But I have got many more interviews on the calendar as I soon approach 38 years of age in a couple of weeks. 37 was a great year. I had some awesome guests on the show. I did cool things, went amazing places, went on my honeymoon. It's a year that I'll remember, and it's I call it the clerk's year because I'm 37. So I will always remember 37 as being pretty defining year in my life, and I am looking forward to continuing to make this podcast. I am, and maybe other creative folks have had similar feelings to this. If you are doing anything for a long period of time, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Even if you love it, there can be times where it feels like a lot, or like a mountain, and everything feels difficult, more difficult than it usually should. That's maybe, I think, how I've been feeling the last couple of weeks. That and this odd combination of restless and ambitious. It's a very odd combination of emotions, and my way that I'm thinking to get through it is to continue to be excited and continue to think, continue to dream while being present, which is a very, like, two very polar opposite things that I'm trying to maintain. Maybe trying to maintain them is what's causing me to feel like I'm in a Talking Heads song. Maybe you felt this way before, and if you did, I'd love to hear from you, and how you deal with it. I'm not pretending to have all of the answers, but I like to think that I continually look for new ones. And my guest on the show today is a real treat. I'm really happy I got to talk with her. My guest on the show today is Emily Bones, guitarist and vocalist for the Toronto-based punk rock band the Anti-Queens, who are on tour with Bowling for Soup right now all over Canada. You can go to antiqueens.com/tickets to see where they are coming in your area. Let's see. At the time of this release, tonight they will be in Sudbury, Ontario, before moving on to Gainfest on April 27th, and then Kitchener, Ontario on May 9th, and then Oshawa at the Biltmore Theatre on May 10th. Again, antiqueens.com/tickets. And you can also stream their new single, Doomed Again, is available everywhere you get your music, from their upcoming new album, Disenchanted, which will be out on May 17th. I heard this new single and really, really enjoyed it, the song Doomed Again. And so I got this opportunity to chat with Emily about pop punk in Canada and her experience growing up near Toronto, as well as the sort of cultural divide between our friends, partners, and allies and our neighbors of the North, and talk a bit about the new album as well as plans for the band going forward. And I had a really great time chatting with Emily about music and about favorite bands, and her band, who is one of my favorite bands now. And I hope I think you'll enjoy this as well, folks. If you like this and think you know a friend who'd be interested in listening to it as well, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. And as I said before, if you ever wrestle with feeling bogged down, even when you are in the midst of a creative pursuit, I would love to know what that moment was like for you, and how you got through it. What was the light that got you through that time? Because anybody who works at something that they love has those moments, and I know that I'm not alone in that, and I know that this too shall pass. As they say. I love to, and again, living in the moment, but being ambitious. Combination of two very things. Let's talk to Emily Bones. So are you in Toronto now?
I moved like 2 hours north of Toronto during the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm living out in the cottage country now.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm a little bit familiar with some of the surrounding areas of Eastern Canada. I spent a bit of time in St. John's before the pandemic.
Oh, awesome.
I have a couple friends that are there. So I am very much a fan of our neighbors to the north.
Awesome. I've been to Newfoundland one time when I was a kid and it was amazing. And we've been wanting to like go play there, but we have to take like a ferry with all the gear and that's expensive apparently. So,
Oh my God, I
yeah.
can imagine. I'm just thinking because I've talked to a couple of other bands that are based in Canada about the experience of even trying to tour the United States and the reoccurring theme. And I don't know if this is your experience with the Anti Queens as well. It seems like it's very tough for Canadian bands to come and play in America.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. It's more tough than the US bands have it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I've heard because I used
I
to.
mean, as long as they're coming up for, I think it's like 2 weeks, they can pretty much come up without any like paperwork, contracts, visas, union dues, like anything like that. They and all their gear, no problem.
Oh, goodness! I guess it's improved a little bit since the days of like having to inventory all of your merch and all of your instruments.
I hope so. It's been a while since we've been down there. The last time was 2019 before everything shut down. So
Uh huh.
we I think we just applied for visas. So we're hoping we get the approval soon, the green light to go.
Fingers crossed, because you have a new album on the way to play for
We
people.
do.
Um,
Yes.
well, what I was so excited to talk to you about, because I was listening to the first single, which just absolutely grabbed me, and I went back and listened to your to your earlier stuff too. I feel like this, and I don't know if this is indicative of the rest of the album. There's like a real kind of like anthemic sort of punk rock quality to it, to at least the first single, which I really spoke to me.
Oh, awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, we were so excited to release it. We worked on this album for like 3.5 years during the pandemic. Like, well, we started working on it before the pandemic and then all throughout it. And the process making it was pretty different than what we're used to normally because
Hmm.
normally we just get in a room together and write, but we weren't allowed to be in a room together. So we were sending files back digitally back and forth for like months and months. And yeah,
Oh,
turned
good.
out pretty good. I'm excited.
Oh, that's really cool. Like, yeah, because when I was like right in the heat of lockdown, I remember just trying to keep myself sane. So I was like really like reaching out for any and everybody to talk to or to like do anything
Hmm.
with remotely. So I would imagine so transitioning to like sending parts back and forth to each other compared to just working on stuff in the room. I imagine that's gotta be a pretty drastic change in the creative process.
Yeah, it really was, especially like none of us are super familiar with like tracking ourselves and sending files. So we had to really kind of like learn how to use like different software and everything. And
Hmm.
so yeah, it's pretty cool because now moving forward that we're able to be in a room together. Now we've got like this kind of new skill under our belts for technology and just getting together like organically. So yeah.
How do you feel the does the difference between being in the room versus recording remotely, does the process change drastically? Because I've always felt like when I'm in the room with bandmates, you're forced to be a little bit more spontaneous in terms of not
Hmm.
overthinking parts or layers on things. I was curious if that was similar to your experience.
Yeah, definitely. I find it easier and it's like um less time back and forth too, right? To like make changes cuz if you send someone a song and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll get to it." And it takes them a couple days to open the file and you're sitting there like, "I want their opinion," Like I just
Hmm.
wrote this like half a song and you're sitting there. So it's like that in person it kind of eliminates that back and forth, you know, like with changes in the song and everything. So I'm personally, I like doing it the organic way because that's what I'm most familiar with.
Hmm.
But yeah.
Amazing. And so was Doomed Again the lead single? Was that one of those songs that came together during the pandemic? Do you have a initial memory of the idea of that song?
Yeah, I remember Val, she sent it to me, like just the rough, no vocals or anything, just a melody and like a scratch, like bass, really kind of crappy drum track to like get the vibe or whatever. And right away, like I was like, oh, this is like early Sum 41, Blink 182, like pop punk vibes. And I was like, yeah, I just instantly felt really like nostalgic.
Hmm.
So she sent this demo kind of thing titled Doomed Again. So I was like, oh, I like that title. I'm gonna build off that. And then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna talk about what it's like being in a band. You know, being nostalgic, looking back to some of our favorite bands back in, you know, early pop punk days.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, Doomed Again. I was like, that sounds pretty familiar to our career as musicians thus far, because there's always things that are going wrong,
Right.
and yeah, that's basically how that came about.
It's one of those, it's that thing that like we can't not do despite everything that gets put in front of us that gets in
Exactly.
between us and the stage. Um,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
yeah, and I just feel like the like arts that is a kind of a unique journey. I feel like the drama of like there's fewer, it feels like there's just less pathos and like my friends who are like accountants or like have more I
Right.
guess normal jobs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a roller coaster. Like every day I wake up and I never know what's gonna like be in our email or like what kind of comment is gonna be made or like, you know, you just never know, right?
No, no, totally. And especially now, because I tried not to engage with like comments too much, but I've also heard that like comments are good for like engagement or whatever. So
Right.
now my brain is poisoned with like trying to figure out what the robots want,
Yeah.
so I can reach more people. But I'd love to ask you because you talked about like being nostalgic for early pop punk. I'm imagining like we probably have some similar favorites and influences. So I was curious when you say like early pop punk, like what's the band that comes to mind for you?
Well, for me, it is Sum 41, just because they were like my favorite band, and like, they were like my first introduction to pop punk. Them and Blink 182, they were
Mm-hmm.
kind of like in the same boat as me when I discovered them, and that was like that kind of changed my music interest completely and like opened like a whole new door for me. And I was like, oh, I want to be in a band, just like I want to be them. I want to be a bunch of stinky dudes in a van playing pranks on people, just being brats, writing cool music, having fun with your friends. Like that was like the epitome of being in a band to me.
Yeah, I relate to this wholeheartedly. Like the first time, because I had Half Hour of Power, and then I remember when All Killer No Filler came up, and the music video for Fat Lip, that just looked like it reminded me of all of my friends at the time because I'm from a
Yeah.
place where some kids had dirt bikes, so I was like familiar with that sort of like personality type. So I
Yeah.
just saw that and was like, I want to be that center of attention. That looks really fun. So
Totally.
and I'm thinking like especially because like some 41 are really big to us down here, but were they like huge in Canada before they got big on the radio down here with Fat Lip?
I think so. They were like in their teens, like high school when they broke here. And then I think that just like trajected them into touring the whole world. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Are you going to see them on this last tour they're doing?
I hope so. I mean, they're kind of like all pals of ours now, which is kind of crazy to like idolize this band. And now Dave's like a really good. I've known him as long as I've known Val now, so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, yeah, any chance we get to go out and see them, I'll be there. And considering it's the last tour, which is so sad, but yeah, I will be there.
Yeah, I'll be too when they come through Brooklyn.
Awesome.
Did Dave produce? Didn't you work with him on this record?
Yeah, he helped us produce. He produced it along with Steve Reisen, who did our self-titled album. So they worked together on this one with us.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What was that experience like? If especially if you have one producer that's from the previous record, and then Dave comes in. Like what's he like in the studio?
Um, he's definitely more like not harsh, but he's strict. He wants like perfect takes every like he with Steve, I feel like he like lets us goof off a little bit more, and we talk for hours, and we don't really get as much work done as we do. But when Dave's there, he's like on the clock,
Uh huh.
so it kind of like pushed us. And also, he was a lot more like strict with just songwriting in general, like sending the demos back and forth. He always had a lot more notes for us than Steve did.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. But I could see like having both sides of that coin being very helpful because like you need to. I feel like for punk you need to cut loose a little bit and be a little
Hmm.
all over the place, but also like since Dave's like a metal guy too, like all those Maiden records, uh,
Yeah.
like all those like crazy twin guitar solos, it can be like, no, we've got to do it perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
he actually wasn't I wasn't in the studio like recording a whole lot, but he was there a lot for like pre-production and like the writing and stuff.
mhm.
But he wasn't there when I did like my guitar or my vocals or anything like recording wise, which I'm grateful for cuz he may have chewed me out, I don't know, but he wasn't there, so I got off easy. But Michael, who did the bass, Dave was there like the whole time for bass and drums. And Michael has a story that he was just playing the same note on the bass for like 4 hours because Dave told him to in the
Uh-huh.
studio. He's like, that just like, that ruined my ego. Like my soul was crushed. So I didn't have to experience that, which is great for me.
Oh yeah, the studio is like the like I feel like the studio like really at least the first time you go in like it really it's like learning to play and learning your own material all over again. Like it puts such
Yeah,
like a microscope on everything that you are doing.
it really
It's
does.
it's a very intense process.
Yeah.
And so did you grow up in Toronto?
Yeah.
And I'm curious to ask you like your experience growing up in Toronto. I haven't been to Toronto yet. The common joke is that it's all like the New York of Canada. So I'm curious
Hmm.
what uh I'm curious what the vibe of Toronto was when you were like a aspiring punk kid growing up.
Okay. Was that like a long-term thing that we were like the New York or whatever? Has that been like something that's been said for a long time, or is that relatively new?
I had been hearing it ever since the movie Scott Pilgrim came out
Okay.
because a
Yeah,
lot
yeah.
of that was shot in I think Toronto for New York or like substitute
Mhm.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's when I started hearing it. So maybe like 10 years ago
Okay.
or 15
Okay,
years
yeah.
ago.
That checks out then. 'Cause yeah, I feel like I have like two versions of Toronto. There's like the Toronto that wasn't trying to be New York, I guess. And then there's the Toronto now that is like 100% trying to be New York City. Like they've got the downtown core, they turned it never used to be called Dundas Square, but they named it Dundas Square once they built all these like crazy lights and billboards, and it's like a mini Times Square
Uh-huh.
connected to like this big mall. So, yeah, I mean, growing up, it didn't feel like that so much. I feel like there was a lot more, I don't know, like culture and authenticity and like just better things for artists in general. There's been a lot of, um, what's the word? They've just been like
Kind of
taking down,
pushed
it
out.
starts with a G.
Gentrification.
Gentrification, that's the word. Yeah. There's been a lot of that in Toronto, which is really sad to see because a lot of the places that I've played or, stores and they're all just gone now and it's not the same. So,
Yeah. Every time I walk by this very boutique clothing store down in the Bowery and think that CBGBs used to be in there, I'm just like, oh,
I know.
where all the where all the cool art happened. It just keeps getting moved further and further uh,
Yeah.
outside the main hubs of the city. So like when you were younger, did you like discover music from an early age and started attending concerts? Were you very much aware of like a local scene?
I would say so. Yeah, like I was going to all the concerts that I could attend before I was like allowed to attend them. So like
Nice.
any like all ages event I'd be there. Like any yeah, like I would go to bars at like 17, somehow find my way in there to watch bands and stuff. So
Hmm.
and my mom's like a huge music lover and huge fan of the band and stuff. So she was always like encouraging me to go to concerts and stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. I love when parents are supportive of interests early on. That's
Oh
really cool.
yeah, she took me to see Sum 41 so many times. Like she drove me all over the country like to go see them play and she introduced me to all sorts of like bands and stuff too. So, yeah, I'm pretty lucky on the mom front.
That is that's very cool. I'm so glad that you had that. So some 41 and Blink are big for me as well. Um, Another band from your neck of the woods that I heard a lot growing up was Gob.
Oh
Were
yeah,
were you did you like them?
I loved Gob. Yeah, actually the time that I got introduced to them was they were opening for Avril Lavigne in Toronto, and I was in like grade 7 at the time, and I showed up in my tie and everything. Like I loved Avril. That was another introduction to like pop punk. Um, but yeah, I got to see them play, and then we just played a festival with them like maybe two summers ago or last summer. I can't remember. It's all a blur, but
Oh,
we played a
that's
festival with them, and we got to hang out with them, and they were all super nice. So
awesome. I'm so glad that they're still doing it, and I'm so glad that you brought up Avril as well because I remember. Well, first off, her last album from last year I think is my favorite thing she's ever done.
really,
I really liked it.
oh, I haven't even bothered listening to it. I should.
It's this is gonna and not to say I discount like any of her other material, but it's the album I've always wanted her to make. If that
Okay,
makes any sense, it's got like a lot of great pop punk songs. It's got a lot of cool features. I know Travis Barker
that's
plays on it a bunch.
yeah. I was gonna say I think maybe he like produced it or something. It was released on his label, I think. So I think he had a big hand in that.
Yeah, like his production style is very evident. The drums are of course
Yeah. Oh
excellent, but
yeah.
some very catchy some super catchy songs on it. I
Yeah,
really
actually, there was a single I really liked. I can't remember it now, but yeah, I
oh
gotta go check that out then.
yeah, was it the one with Machine Gun Kelly maybe?
Had Travis in it. I don't think he was in it though. I think it was like the first one she released with Travis. I just remember him in the
Mm-hmm.
music video, and yeah.
Yeah, I know that one, the one that you're talking about. That's a great song. The one she did with MGK is a pretty catchy chorus as
Okay, I
well.
gotta check it out.
Oh yeah. So and so when you're listening, so going listening to all these bands, was guitar the instrument you were drawn to initially, or was there a path to guitar?
Oh, that's a good question. It was kind of like simultaneous. I can't say it. Simultaneous.
Simultaneous?
That's
Yeah.
the word. Yes. It was kind of that because I had always been singing like my whole life. My mom had me in like plays and I was dancing and stuff. So singing kind of just was always a component. But then when I picked up guitar, then I was like, oh, now I have an instrument I can use to write my silly little songs. So then they just kind of like went hand in hand at that point. So I just
Mhm.
kind of like would listen for both vocals and guitar, but usually it's more vocals, I would say,
Mhm.
cuz that's just me.
Oh, absolutely. I can hear it. You have an incredible singing voice. Like you don't
Oh,
like
thanks.
oh yeah, like you actually like I can tell that you can sing like you could sing more than just punk, I imagine. Like I'm sure if you needed to sing like well, I'm trying to think of a good example like I don't know like a I don't know like some sort of pop standard or
Yeah.
soul standard.
Oh yeah.
I could feel that. Like there's some
I love
belt
that stuff.
yeah, there's some like belts that in here in some of the woe parts and I really did that.
That's awesome. Thank you. I was actually thinking about like I read a comment or something, or someone said it to me one time and they were like, it's like if Adele started doing punk rock or something. And I'm like, oh my God, that's the best compliment ever. And like, I can totally see that too.
Amazing.
That's perfect.
Oh, that's a very excellent compliment. That's so cool. And did you play in bands in high school growing up, or did that come later?
Yeah, I had a couple bands that I was in. I started one and we called it Mittens, which then actually turned into the Anti Queens because we had to grow up from our
Uh
our
huh.
name. And then yeah, I was in a couple other bands just doing like guitar or like keyboards and stuff like that, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing really to like nothing as substantial as the Anti Queens, I guess. Now that's kind of what I put everything into.
Totally. And like, what kind of places were you playing around this time? Were there clubs, or was there like a CBGB kind of equivalent, or an all ages place, or was it like DIY,
Oh,
more DIY?
yeah, there was definitely like a CBGB's equivalent in Toronto. Another place that got torn down, but it was called the Big Bop. And it was like a three-story purple building, and each story had like a venue on it. So they had like the bottom was the cathedral, the second floor was the Reverb, which was like where more like bigger touring bands would play.
Mm-hmm.
Cathedral was like the dirty like punk shows, or like they'd have raves and stuff there too.
Yeah.
And then they had the top floor Holy Joe's, which they do like more intimate, like acoustic kind of things. And they would host like all different types of events, a lot of like all ages stuff. That's one place that I had gotten into a lot of times underage as well.
Uh huh.
I saw so many shows there, and yeah, that was like anyone that grew up in Toronto or lived in Toronto that was in the music industry, like we all loved the Big Bop, and it was like a really sad moment when they tore it down and turned it into a furniture store, like a
Oh
high
man,
class furniture store. Yeah,
what an interesting change.
yeah.
That's so weird. Like, one of the big comedy clubs in New York that's pretty famous, Caroline's, a couple years ago, was turned into like a big ping pong complex.
What is that?
It's like essentially a lounge where you would play table tennis for like $60 an hour.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Huh?
It's just the second lives of venues are always so weird to me.
It is.
The place I spent most of my many nights of my 20s is now a boxing gym.
I know it's so depressing, honestly.
Yeah, I take some small solace in whenever something goes away. There's always something new. There's always like cool new kids doing places. Like, I remember during the pandemic in Brooklyn, at least, seeing concerts just happening in the street, like
Oh, that's awesome.
quite literally in the
Yeah,
street, which was really rad. Like, no like PHS for vocals, nothing on drums, just crank the amps. Like,
that's amazing. I love that. We need more of that.
I think so. Like, I have these dreams of like the ACDC music video for It's a Long Way to the Top, where they're just being driven by on the truck, or later on like Vanessa Carlton's, like just kind of
Yeah.
driving around, like just like impromptu punk show, and then you just drive off.
Yeah, yeah. It's on the back of a truck or whatever.
Exactly. Like, Warp Tour may not be gone, but we will bring Warp Tour to the people.
Yeah. I like that. That's you're onto something with that. If you
I
need any help, let us know.
I'll let you know. So like the roots of the Anti Queen started like that early on, like when you were in school still.
Yeah, I was probably like grade 8 maybe when I started like the first draft of it, I guess.
Uh huh.
It goes so far back, but yeah, we changed the name and I think it was like 20. Oh man, I'm so bad with dates. 2014, 2013, I think it was.
Okay.
And then yeah, that's when we actually like went into the studio and did two EPs and worked with a producer for the first time and actually started doing like bigger shows than what we had been doing before.
Mm-hmm. And it was as a result of those two EPs.
Pretty much, yeah. Like we were working with Ian Blackwood, who's the brother of Sarah Blackwood from Walk Off the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So getting to work with him, and also I got to feature in actually a couple videos with Sarah was like really helpful for us too, because we ended up getting like a bunch of the Walk Off the Earth fans coming over to our page listening to our music, and like got a bunch of YouTube subscribers out of it and everything. So that definitely helped.
Amazing. And so like because you played with like a lot of different bands, I'm curious what this sort of what that path looked like. So these EPs come out, and then were you like the kind of go-to opener when bands would come through town? Did you start doing the road around that time?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't think we did too many headlining shows, mostly just support. I think there was a little bar called Cherry Cola, is also gone now, but that was like our home for a couple of years there.
Mm-hmm.
We were like uh we had our own drinks named after us at that bar. And we were there all we lived there. We were like the
Nice.
residency band. Um but yeah, I think yeah, before doing like a full length album, we were mostly just doing like opening stuff. We got over to like Montreal a couple times, and we went through the States as well a couple times as well
Mm-hmm.
with Valerie's other band, Black Hat Attack. We did stuff with them over there, but other than that, yeah, it was like nothing, no like real big festivals or like big support, direct support
Mm-hmm. What
offers or
what
anything like that.
what was touring the States like early on? Like, was it real like get in the van? Like, what did you have your sweaty in a van moment?
Oh yeah, tons of that. The first time we went down, it was our first tour ever. First time going to see. It was like a big deal because Val had done it before, but she this was before she joined the band. So she was in Black Cat Attack, and they
Mm-hmm.
were offering us to like go with them on this U.S. tour, and they were gonna show us how to apply for visas and like do all the things. So we were like so stoked, like oh my god, we're going to the States, whatever. We went for a whole month, and we like literally packed up my old bass player at the time. We packed up our apartment and like put it in storage. We're like, we're going to the US for a month. Like we lived together at the time. We're like, we wanted to not live with each other anymore. So we're like, this is a great opportunity. Put everything in storage. We hopped in the Dodge Caravan and went. And we were like, we're just gonna sleep in the Dodge Caravan every night to save money on hotels, because like it's our first time. We're like, it'll be fine. But we
Mm-hmm.
went down south to like Florida and stuff, where it's like sleeping in the van is not ideal. So I think
Sure.
we spent like the first night in the van, and then Black Cat Attack were like, you guys are crazy. Like, what are you doing? So we just started doing the hotels after that.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine like Florida and heat, and there's also like a certain element. Like I get the sleeping in the van thing, but something about sleeping in like a visible van in like a truck stop parking lot feels
Yeah.
like the setup of a podcast.
Yeah, for sure. It's all yeah, also a Dodge Caravan. It's like all the windows exposed,
Uh
like
huh.
obvious Ontario license plates. Like
Yeah. No. Exactly. But Dodge Caravan, that's the van of choice.
it was. It died, sadly, RIP. But we actually are in the market for a new van right now, cuz our other van is on the brink of death as well.
Uh, I know someone from the comedy world that converted a like a small school bus into like their living quarters tour bus for when they do the road.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's the life, honestly.
I think so. Like all these van life YouTubers, I think are figure onto a few things. Um,
I think so too. I've thought about it many times too. Like, man, imagine not having to pay rent, and like you just have everything in your little van, and you can go live like wherever you want, cuz I work remote too. So like
yeah,
I could go drive down to Mexico in my little RV, like or whatever it is. I would love to do that. That's not out of the question for the future.
yeah. Just pop up on a beach for a few weeks. Be about that beach life.
Mhm.
There's
All that money you'd save on rent.
oh, absolutely. Always good to save money on that. Do you remember a particular show like from those early days that was really like special that made you feel like, oh, we're on to something?
Um, hmm, that's a good question. Maybe the Pouzza Fest. So there's a festival in Montreal called Pouzza Fest, and it's like I don't know if you've gone down to Fest in Gainesville, but it's basically
Mm-hmm.
like the exact same thing. So there's lots of like so many venues that are all open the same weekend, and it's just like bands like all weekend. They come from all over the place and
Yeah.
fit like people. It's just like you see so many people and so many bands, and it's awesome. But yeah, we had always wanted to play that for like the longest time we heard about it, but I don't know, we just never got the opportunity to play. But then one time an opportunity came in. The pay wasn't very great at the time, but we're like, oh, who cares? We're gonna go play it, and we got to play at like one of the main stages they put us on. Like it was kind of early, but there was still like a really good amount of people there, and I remember that just being like one of the first like big shows that we've played. And then yeah, from there we've been invited to play Pooza, and our guarantee just keeps climbing. So
Amazing. Slow
yeah,
return,
yeah.
slow increases. I'm also curious, just from like a because I play in bands too. When you play like a festival, does your equipment setup change because it's a festival, or is it pretty much, or is it the same thing you would play for like club shows?
It pretty much stays the same, I guess. Like usually the festivals will provide gear, so if it's like something that we like playing out of, like I don't know, Marshall, or Val usually plays out of a Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
She'll normally bring her head with her. I'm more just like I'll play out of whatever
Uh huh.
sounds good, you know. And if it's there and it's one less thing for me to carry, like I'll just use it if it's available. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if the gear is available and it's not crap, then we're likely to use it. Otherwise, we just will bring like a whole back line.
Ah, very very cool. I've always wondered about that because I've talked to bands like that play Warp Tour, but back in the era of the like refrigerator sized bass cabinet
Oh
era,
God,
and like
yeah.
a couple muddy treks through fields in like Pensacola, and you're like combo amps.
Oh God. Yeah, that sounds horrible. I would not wish that on anyone. Those fridge cabs, mm-mm. No,
Oh yeah,
no.
oh yeah. Like I'm now at the point where it's like, can I bring a DI box and plug directly in the system? Well, I don't know if we can take that gig then.
Yeah. What do you mean I have to carry more than like 10 pounds?
Oh yeah, like in like New York, like I'm trying to every condense everything into one bag as much as
Yeah,
possible.
that's fair.
So you do these two EPs. You do this cool festival in Montreal, and how and then how long after that? It looks like your self titled came out in 2019, right before the pandemic.
Hmm.
What and I'd love to ask a little bit about like the evolution of you as a songwriter, because I love the self-titled album, and it feels like not grungier. It has sort of like that sort of like raw, kind of like raw MC5, sort of like there's lots of like dirty like sounding like riffs
Hmm.
on that record. It's so sick. I was curious if like what were you like listening to a lot of like classic rock at the time, because it's very much a classic rock kind of punk record to me. The
Oh, that's
self-titled.
awesome. I love that. Um, Honestly, maybe a little bit. Yeah, like I have influences from so many different like genres. It's all over the place. So, as far as like dirty guitars, I mean, we've got a lot of that on the on the new album too. I feel like that's just kind of our
Sick, sick.
thing. But I definitely think self-titled was like noisier and more like raw than this new one. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
this one's a lot more refined. We went like crazy with harmonies and stuff, and more lead guitar like solos and riffs. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we really put everything into this one. That one feels like that it's just that's what you get from like us jamming together in a room. Like that was like the organic sound that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like that's what we sound like in the jam space. But this new one, it's like, that's us with like a lot of elevated things like harmonies and twinkly bits that we've added. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain kind of spontaneity to it. And again, I if I didn't clarify earlier, I like both sides of this artistic process and seeing what comes of it. Um, there, so I'm really excited to hear the rest of the new album for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to hear it. I think if you liked the last one, I think you'll like this one a lot too. It's got like all the same elements, just more refined, I'd say. We had a lot longer to write it and record
Mm-hmm.
it, 3.5 years, so you could
Oh,
hear it.
absolutely. Is there something that you do as a songwriter now that you didn't used to do?
Hmm. Um, that's such a good question too. I don't think so. Not that I'm like consciously aware of. I think like just with age, I'm getting better at writing songs because I'm,
Mm-hmm.
like, and just what you listen to and all those influences and stuff just grow as well too. So it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think it's nothing's really changed. I've just gotten older and better at what I'm writing. I think less
Yeah.
like cringe-worthy things.
Oh yeah. Like like so much craft that comes into condensing down to like a rock,
Yeah.
like a shouted out kind of simple uh, rock song that I think the craft of it goes a little underappreciated by like maybe the broader music listening public. But like
Mm.
you and I would know, like to write something as like super succinct and to the point that everybody loves is I've seen it drive you insane
Oh yeah,
to
definitely.
to get to that point. Like Gabba Gabba Hey, like that could be very silly to anybody else but the Ramones.
It's true. Yep.
Do you play a lot of leads, is Val more of the lead player?
Val's more of the lead player. I've got, I think, one solo on this new record that I'm very proud of. It's like really nothing to write home about, but Dave helped me write it, so I think we did a pretty good job.
Amazing. What song is that?
It's called Love's Heavy Burden, so it's our probably our like most slowish mid-tempo like depressing love song.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wrote like a little lead for the intro parts, and then I have a little solo in the bridge. And yeah, I like playing it. It's fun.
Amazing. That's super cool. And I know you've got a bunch of shows on the calendar for this. You're going out with Bowling for Soup
We are,
soon.
yeah. I think Thursday is the first show. So
Oh wow! So I'm getting you like right before you go on the road.
yep,
For it's time to be sweaty in a van again. Well, maybe not in
yeah,
Canada right now, but
yeah. I mean, it's getting warmer, and it's always stinky, whether or not we're sweaty.
yeah, because rock and roll has to be a little grimy.
Exactly. Ain't nobody got time for showers. I'm just kidding. We're like notorious for
Mm-hmm.
for showering on the road. Like we will shower every night because there's nothing better than like being sweaty and gross and just like getting it all off you and going to bed. It's the
Yes,
best.
yeah,
It's the
helps
best.
reset for the next day for sure.
Exactly.
Are what are some other songs you're really excited for people to hear from the new album?
um, I don't want to give away the singles we have coming up, but uh, we do have. Okay, we've got a couple features on the album, which we're really excited about. So we've got our friend Tracy. She's in a band called Cross Dog,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like political, just like noise, rocky, metal, hardcore. Like they're awesome. They're like I'm a super fan. But we got
Nice.
her to do a like a screamy kind of bridge on one of the songs coming out. So I'm really excited for that. And then we also got Brenna Red from The Last Gang to be on a song as well. So
Nice.
we're really excited to release those ones because we got two really awesome, amazing women musicians on there, and
Mm-hmm.
I just fangirl over the fact that they even wanted to be a part of it.
That's awesome. I get that. I fan out on the fact that anybody wants to talk to me on this a lot of times. Like every time I'm just like, oh, this is really. And I also get to meet like very people I've never met before, like you doing this. So this has been
Yeah.
quite a delight.
Yeah, it's
Is
great talking with you.
likewise. Is there a place you want to play that you haven't played yet with Anti Queen
Mm,
or Anti Queens? I'm sorry.
that's okay. Yeah, so many places I feel like. I really want to go to like California because I love California. We haven't been out. We really haven't been out to like the west coast of the U.S. yet. We've always done the
Mm-hmm.
east coast. So definitely we'd like to get out there. We were supposed to go to Sweden this summer, but we can't go now, so that's kind of sad. But
Oh,
that's
bummer.
definitely on the list for sure. Japan. Oh my God, I want to go to Japan so bad. There's so
Y-
many places.
yes, you do. Yes, you do want to go to Japan. I I was in Japan for a little bit for my honeymoon a few months ago, and
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
still just I've been fortunate enough to been there more than once. I just fall in love with it over and over again every time I'm there.
I bet.
And the music scene is there's so many great bands coming out of that country. Like so
Hmm.
many awesome pop punk bands, so many great metal bands. They're doing stuff like I've never heard any other band do.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I would love to go experience their music scene and everything. Like, just like selfishly, I would like the band to take me there so that I don't have to pay for a plane ticket.
Oh, that makes perfect sense to me. I've also heard like the audiences in Japan are just like the best. They're like very enthusiastic, but also like very respectful.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about touring out there. Like, it just sounds so awesome.
oh yeah, like a buddy of mine is one of the touring guitarists in Mest, and they played some shows there, and the photos just looked incredible. Like just I've all and my other favorite thing about that scene is the Interrupters have a live album that has a bunch of tracks from shows
Hmm.
they did in Tokyo, and you can
Yeah.
just hear like the entire crowd singing along.
Yeah.
They almost don't even need to. She didn't even need to sing. She could,
Yeah. I
the
know,
crowd
that's
could have.
crazy. I listened to that. It's like overwhelming how loud they are, and like the crowd sizes, like, and just being able to reach them from like all the way over here is just insane.
Mm-hmm. There's another one of my favorite bands from Japan that they're called Secret Seven Line that they've been together for a long time, but I always see them play with every like North American band that comes over there. They're like
Mm.
always on the show as well, but they're like a super cool skate punk band.
Oh, cool. I have to check them out. I've got a friend that's living over there for I don't know how long. I think they're on like a contract or something, and
Mm-hmm.
I always see them going out seeing bands playing. And there was this band from Japan that started following us because I saw he was at their show, and I'm like, oh, yay! Now we're making friends, connections.
I think the first tour over there is going to be pretty incredible. I also wonder, and I haven't, and I'm not exactly sure of the inspiration for the name the Anti Queens, but I'm curious how like if you ever played like the UK, the kind of reaction that you might get.
That's yeah. I often wonder that too. I mean, well, I don't think we haven't played over in the UK yet. I wonder if that's one of the reasons why.
We could play Ireland maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's hilarious because my whole dad's side of the family, they're all from England. So I'm like split like
Mhm.
British Canadian. So also at the same time, I'm like, I don't care what they think because I have just as much right to call ourselves this as I want.
Absolutely. My family on my dad's side's English as well. So I always
Oh, nice.
yeah, the thing and I'm German on my other side. So the thing I say on stage when I do stand up sometimes is I'm from the Republic of Mine. Everything everything belongs to me now.
Yep, exactly.
So going on tour with Bowling for Soup soon. And when does the new album come out?
May 17th, I'm pretty sure. I'm so sorry. I'm horrible with dates. I'm just gonna check our Instagram real quick.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure it's May 17th.
don't even worry about it. I want to make sure that people get this
May
heads up.
17th. I was right.
Amazing. because I want to. Well, I'm very excited to hear this record. I'll hear it with the rest of the world as well. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing what's to come from you. And something else I like to talk. Sometimes I like to ask towards the end here is I like to manifest things sometimes like hopes and dreams. Is there something
Oh.
this record? What would you like to? Is there something with the Anti Queens you haven't done yet that you would like to do, and what is it?
Also, that's so sweet. I love that you add this to the end. That's such a positive, like, lovely thing. Um, Damn, I already said the Japan thing, so I can't say that again. I don't know. I guess it would just be to keep writing and making music and release something even better the next time.
Mm-hmm. I think that's an excellent goal for sure. And where can people? So if people want to find out more about the Anti Queens, can they go?
So we just released the single all over the interwebs, so it's available all over streaming platforms,
Mm-hmm.
Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all those things. And you can pre-order the album on our Bandcamp. So we've got all sorts of cool colors, vinyls that are limited edition, and yeah, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, we're everywhere.
Amazing. Well, Emily, this has been a real delight. I really appreciate you taking time to talk with me, and best of luck with the new record and
Yeah.
the tour. I haven't talked to Jared in a while, but I'm curious if you bump into him if he'll remember me or not.
Okay.
So,
I'll let him know.
awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this, Emily.
Thank you. It was really fun talking with you, and I appreciate you having me.
Folks, the delightful Emily Bones of the excellent punk rock band The Anti Queens. Get their new single, Doomed Again, everywhere that you get their music, and keep an eye out for their upcoming second album, Disenchanted, out May 17th, 2024, everywhere you get your music. And if you are living in Canada, you can catch the Anti Queens live on tour with Bowling for Soup. Go to antiqueens.com/tickets for more information. And thank you for listening to this. If you enjoyed this podcast and think you know a friend who would be interested in listening to it as well, you can send them to awesomedisaster.com. That has links to everywhere you can get the show. You can follow me on Instagram at willcarry23, at Comic Will Carry on TikTok. And if you want to go a little bit further in support of the show, you can check out our merch store as well as our Patreon, which are also at awesomedisaster.com. And if you are in the middle of a creative project, or if you're nearing the end, or if you are in the middle of something that has no end, but merely the one that you present yourself, give yourself that grace and ability to continue forward, because I believe in you and I will continue to believe in you as well as myself. And I will thank you all so much for being here. And I'll see you next time between Awesome and Disaster. Take care, everybody.